done 3 benefits for us.
Wow.
He split 2 other benefits. So Amy's been a huge supporter of us. Dennis has. So what is important here is independent media. We are not going to have any NPR. We are not going to have any BBC. We're going to carry lots of Pacifica programs. It's amazing that most people only pick up Amy, but there's Free Speech Radio News, there's Hard Rock Radio. There's hundreds of programs around the country that are produced on Pacifica stations. The other thing is, we're not going to have any underwriting. We're going to follow the true original mission of Pacifica that started in 1949 with Dick Moore and Lou Hill. No corporate money, no government money, no underwriting, listener-supported radio. And when we get rid of NPR, National Petroleum Radio, we can have local public affairs. We can have programs in Tiwa, in Tewa, in Spanish. We can cover the whole community. We can have remote studios in Cuesta, in Abiquiu, in Mora, in Española. So that's what Amy has been supporting, that kind of programming, and we really appreciate what she's done for us. It's a really hard road to haul. We've had, our sites have been hacked by Los Alamos, petition to deny from Highlands, which is Highlands University. We can't prove it, of course, but who else is going to be doing that?
Come on, Robin.
Anyway, the other thing we're here tonight is to honor some really important activists who have been inspired by a lot of work that Amy has done. First of all, we have Miguel Sanesteban and Margaret Garcia. Miguel has been working with youth and agriculture, saving seeds, and he and Margaret have created this wonderful daughter on the study who's right out in the dirt with Miguel and Margaret. They have inspired youth. Miguel's getting his doctorate at UNM. This is a scientist and a musician.
Can you say a few words?
He will be speaking at the podium call. The other person that's not here that we're going to honor is Luis Peña, who along with his wife Beata Toshi Peña are spoken word artists in the Española Valley, fighting Los Alamos National Labs and abuse against women in the indigenous community. And they all these people bring people together. The third person we're honoring, where's Pat?
You have to look down.
Pat Leahan of the Las Vegas Peace and Justice Center. This is a woman who knows how to talk to everybody. She doesn't paint people black and white. She knows that there's compromises that can be made with everybody in the community. She's been fighting fracking in San Miguel and Mora County. She's been fighting the overflights. We have an incredible militarization of New Mexico from several Air Force bases around the state. And she has done extensive research. And again, she is a model of how she doesn't make people into enemies. She realizes that there's commonality between everybody. And there's some other people that they want it just black and white, and it's just not that way. So I salute what she's done, and she has some of her grassroots volunteers came to this reception, paid $80, which they can't afford, I know, because they want to honor Pat, and I think she's a great woman.
So I'm Denis Moynihan, the co-author with Amy, and one of my jobs is to make sure that we do everything we can to protect Amy's voice. And since there's not a sound system in this room, I'm just going to ask you to quietly come forward as close as you can before she says these words in support of cultural energy, because she talks a lot, not only on the show, but doing fundraising, talks like this. And so we really need to just use the normal room voice, and then I'll hand off. And also, just quickly to say, cultural energy is doing something very important that's also very expensive. And when it's on air, when these stations are broadcasting, its value will become apparent to many people. before it's on air, with the startup costs, have to be obtained. And it's only people who are early adopters, like you all, who understand the value of having an independent media institution to help weave together the fabric of your community, strengthen it, making it sustainable and resilient. So please give to Cultural Energy to put these sticks on the air. And thank you, Robin, for having us and doing such a great job.
And I will mention we also have 2 other licenses now. I mean, in the 9 years we've done a lot of work. 89.5 FM is going to come on next summer. Together we'll reach 240,000 people in all of northern New Mexico. And we have Channel 18, the last TV station that's probably ever be in New Mexico, because, of course, Obama is getting rid of the TV. They're auctioning off channels 32 to 54 and putting broadband there. There is an insidious attempt to eliminate all media but the internet, and that is not good. We need print,
So what
we need
channel
radio.
are you?
We're channel 18.
So could you tell us, I would rather spend the time talking at the big event and really addressing all these things, but I would love to hear how you achieved what you are doing. You're getting 2 radio stations and a TV station?
Yes.
So how did this happen?
We have an incredible lawyer, Matt McCormick, in Washington. When I called him through a friend, he said, "Oh, you know Norm Davis? I'll do it pro bono." He is with a top communications firm. He has been the miracle. Because without a top communications lawyer, you cannot get through the FCC. Then we've had a lot of volunteers. Mike Tilley volunteered for many, many years. We've had hundreds of volunteers getting us on the air. But it's perseverance. You have to just keep fighting every little piece of the bureaucracy. It's very, very difficult. We've had some really significant donors. We got a $45,000 gift last year, anonymous, that allowed us to buy one of the stations. But again, Channel 18, we hope that to be a statewide. We want to get enough content locally produced all over the state that we can be on DirecTV and Dish TV statewide with local content, not just PBS wall to wall. So, but we need to raise quite a bit of money. I mean,
How much do you have to raise?
we have to raise $40,000 to get on the air with 90.1 FM. The tower's being built.
Do you have call letters for these?
KCEI 89.9 is KCEY.
Do you make that up, or do they give it to you?
No, that's Cultural Energy Independent Radio.
KCEI.
All right.
And
And KCEI is Cultural Energy. Yeah.
well, youth radio, we're a lot working with youth. We need about, thanks to Obama cutting the PTFP, Department of Commerce grant, that every public radio station in this country has depended upon. Instead of having to raise $80 million for Pickery's Peak, we have to raise $250,000. A 23,000 watt solar array, 165-foot tower, which also the TV will go on. And again, why does Obama cut $20 million from public radio? There's a reason.
And PTPA is a grant program for infrastructure, the purchase of expensive kind of startup equipment.
Right. It's very difficult to raise money for because you're not on the air. And it funded 3/4 of the cost of all that for most stations. And again, we're spending $80 million putting broadband with a grant to Taos and Mora County, but we can't afford $20 million for the whole United States. Something's wrong, and there's no publicity about this. Same thing with auctioning off the channels, broadcast TV channels. You don't hear about it.
Do you think that's going to do better?
Why do
That's
you
going to do better?
Well, we've got to keep these channels alive. We've got to keep them.
Why do you think broadcast channels are still so important?
Because they're financially viable. Basically, you can't make money on the internet. People expect things to be free. So the only people that are going to end up on the internet are corporate powers that have the money to spew propaganda, basically. Basically, print, broadcast radio, and broadcast TV have a model which can support investigative reporters and staff. The internet doesn't have that model, and they can monitor every single thing that's on the internet. They can turn it off at will. People have to wake up to the danger. If you read Juan Gonzalez's book on the history of ethnic media, you'll see a pattern where corporations have taken each medium and subverted it. The post office is the next target. Juan Gonzalez pointed out in the first 50 years of the post office, what was 90% of the mail that was delivered? Why was it created? It was to deliver newspapers to rural areas. 90% of the mail was newspapers that were delivered. This is not to deliver objects. This is to deliver democracy to our country. And they're trying to get rid of the post office along the same line. So we've got to protect all the medium. We've got to get journalism back in the schools, get youth expressing themselves. Our new location is approved as a school. So we're going to be teaching high school and middle school students TV and radio journalism.
Robin,
So that's enough for now, I think.
Are you open to any questions on the floor?
Yeah.
Come on, Robin.
This is the bad-ass question. And it goes to Amy, too, although I would forgive her for not covering it. And you and everybody else, and Dennis. But has somebody come down on you to tell you to not open your mouth about 9/11 truth?
No.
Well, then why aren't you?
Because we're interested in local grassroots issues right here.
This
And
is
we're
the
not
most-
on the air anyway, so we can't.
That's
We've got to
why
get
I-
on the air first before we can talk about anything.
I'd be dead if we were on the air.
Yeah.
But I'm just
Let
asking.
me say one thing. I just wanted to follow up on what Robin was saying. Juan Gonzalez and Joe Torres have written a remarkable book. It actually just came out in paperback. I encourage everyone to get it.
now, yeah.
News for All the People,
no-
the
if they're
epic
sold out,
story of race in the American media. Brand new. Juan has been working on this for so many years. And as he says in the book, the new sweeping narrative history of American news media that puts race at the center of the story. From the earliest colonial papers, how America's racial divisions have played a central role in the creation of the country's media system.
Great
This is
book.
what it's
There's
absolutely
a lot about New
astounding.
Mexico in there too, or Old Mexico, depending on what
Great
year
book.
he writes
That's
about.
right. And then his other book, which is required reading in many schools in this country and should be for all of us, is called Harvest of Empire, A History of Latinos in America. And in the last few weeks, a film based on this book by the same title, Harvest of Empire, The Untold Story of Latinos in America, has just been, it's made into a film. It's premiered in New York, in Los Angeles, both to overcrowded, sold out, held over showings in both places. You should ask for it to be played in Taos. It's now going to be played in Washington, D.C. as well. The film called Harvest of Empire. It tells the story of Central American countries and why immigration is the issue it is today in the United States. And it tells the story of U.S. military intervention in the Dominican Republic in 1965, in Salvador in the 1980s, and what has created, and Mexico and Guatemala, in this mass migration into this country, and the responsibility we have in this country to deal with this issue. So I'm sorry Juan's not with us today, but I highly encourage you to read his books and to see the film.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we don't have them, but
are available, yeah.
ask Moby Dickens to, maybe they have them, and they're
Yeah,
fantastic.
they're probably in your library. But
And in the library.
Okay, well, let's go back in about 10 minutes. We have the first 3 rows are reserved for the people here, and we're letting people in right now for the other seats. And at 6:30, we'll get started.
Thanks, Robin.
You need to take a break and do the waiting.
That would be great. I just don't know who to take it off of.
Pretty cool. Do you work for Buxton now? Do you guys know Dan Summer? He built the studio or did a lot for the creation of the studio?
Dan Summer?
Yeah. Are you familiar with this part of the networking and sort of telco stuff behind, you know, all the news feeds and all of that?
Actually, I'm
More of a producer or what?
I'm sort of a gopher.
Okay.
I drive the car. And
Yeah, cool job.
I handle
Logistical.
calls
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. That's great.